John Wick Chapter 4 is once again directed by Stahelski and once again stars Keanu Reeves as John Wick. John Wick Chapter 4 follows John Wick as he is once again on the run from the high table. That's the plot. Now in terms of where I stand on the John Wick franchise, I really like the first one. I quite enjoy the second one. Chapter 3, meh. I wasn't particularly fond of it. So because I wasn't particularly fond of Chapter 3 and I have a terrible attention span, I wasn't particularly hyped for John Wick Chapter 4. Now I'll start with pros first. The cast are great. Keanu Reeves is once again badass in this role. He does a lot of his own stunts and you can tell that, so that does make him very entertaining to watch. And I also really liked the supporting cast. Donnie Yen, he had a much bigger role in this film than I expected him to have, but he was great. Laurence Fishburne in his limited screen time brings a lot of energy to his role, and this being a John Wick film, from a technical standpoint, there's a lot to really like. Visually, this film looks amazing. The colours in terms of the cinematography are really bright and bold. With the first John Wick film, I think Stahelski and David Leitch, I know Stahelski is the only person credited for directing that film, but they both directed it. I think one thing they were going for is really trying to get away from the quick cut style of action, and as they're stunt people, they really want to show the stunts. And that's what David Leitch has been doing in his other films, such as Bullet Train, Deadpool 2, Hobbs and Shaw. And that's what Stahelski's been doing in these John Wick films. He uses longer and wider takes, so it's really easy to see what's going on. So from a visual standpoint, John Wick Chapter 4 is great. There are action scenes I did quite enjoy watching, and I do also quite like the lore of the high table. A lot of the background, a lot of their rituals, if you will. Finding all that out, I found to be quite intriguing. So yeah, there are great things in this film, but there's also a lot I wasn't big on. The first act, the first 50 minutes of this movie, it was a struggle. I just didn't really find there to be much emotionally to connect to. And I think a big issue in this film is that John Wick doesn't really have much of a character arc. He doesn't really grow. There are certain moments that the filmmakers want to have a big impact, but because John Wick doesn't really develop as a character, those moments aren't as fulfilling. Let's talk about that excessive runtime. I especially felt the runtime in the third act. I'm seeing many praise the third act as peak action cinema, but I honestly think about 85% of that third act could have just been completely cut. I kind of understand what the filmmakers were going for, trying to make you feel as exhausted as John Wick, but that didn't really work for me. It made me feel exhausted in a bad way. I was just a bit like, can we just hurry this up? I don't have a watch. I don't know what that was. I was just like, I have places to be. That place being bed. So yes, the runtime is definitely too much. I quite enjoyed the second act of this movie, but it really does slow down about the 2-hour mark. Overall, yes, there is a lot to praise in John Wick Chapter 4. However, there's only so many times you can watch one guy kill masses of people in a 3-hour movie before it starts to get repetitive. I'm going to give John Wick Chapter 4 a B-. Guys, thank you so much for watching this video. You guys are awesome. Blu-ray Billy, logging off.